So this is Thunderstruck by AC/DC, and I've been working on this one for a little while. It's a great riff to practice. So I want to tell you some general like aerobic ways to practice it, and different fingerings that you can use. And then I want to talk about something that I actually kind of discovered while I was recording the riff at the beginning of this video that really helped me play the riff, and because that's when it happened, I want to talk about it here. And then if you can hang on to the end, I'll tell you a funny story about one day when I was playing this riff, and another classical guitarist heard me playing it, and their impression. So this is a great riff to practice. Okay, it's all on one string. We're kind of thinking about scale technique, right? Maybe arpeggio technique, but it's all on one string. So I've gone over a concept like this in a previous video on Children of Bodom After Midnight. That's a very similar riff, so you might want to refer to that video if you want to hear a little bit more in-depth discussion about using different fingerings and whatnot. But here I'll just skim over them. So you can get a workout in your whole hand by practicing this riff. Okay, so different fingerings that we can use. These are like common ones. Okay, you can use IM, IA, and MA. Okay, all in groups of 2. And then you can do each one of those, rest stroke and free stroke. And then, if you're going to study it, I would recommend doing them, frontwards and backwards, so to speak. So if you're going to do IM, okay, start on I and play through it, and then do the same combination but start on M and practice it both ways. Okay, so that becomes with both rest stroke and free stroke, that becomes was it 12 combinations, I think. And then of course you can throw your thumb in too, so you can do thumb in any one of those fingers. Fingers probably free stroke, but maybe not. So like thumb and I, thumb and M, thumb and A. Okay, and again you can start both ways. So if you do PI, start on thumb, and then do IP, start on I. It'll feel a little bit different. Anything, really any kind of right hand pattern that you're working, you can practice here. I was working on something where I was trying to get PMI down nice and clean. So I stopped what I was doing and I applied it to this riff. So I did PMI, 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 like that. Okay, for you guitar tremolo people, PAMI, sure, why not? I could use some work on that one. And of course you've got your 3 finger combinations. AMI is a good one. Free stroke and rest stroke. That's a really good one to practice, okay? If you want to work out your pinky a little bit, but you have a hard time, finding a place to do it, do 1 repetition of this riff with pinky and I, okay? Might sound a little weird. I'm doing rest stroke here. But, if you don't ever work your pinky, you'll never use it. You can never use it. So if you did 1 of those a day, that would be pretty good work for your pinky, and you could go on from there. And then, of course, you can do slurs. When I was checking the tempo for this song, I looked up the video, Thunderstruck, And Angus Young on the video doesn't play the riff the way he plays it on the album. On the album, it sounds like it's with a pick, the whole thing. On the video, he's got his right hand in the air, and he's not plucking anything. Okay, looks very cool, right? And you know, he might have done that. He might have did that because it looks cool. He might have did it to like save his hands some, you know, because that's a lot of plucking. It adds up really quick. He could have spent a day in the studio just tracking that riff, or maybe it didn't take him that long, but you know, you could have ironed out some time to pick it the way you wanted for the album. But then when it comes to playing live, you can play a whole set for several hours like they do. Okay, well, this might be a good place to save some energy with your picking in. But it's a good way to work it. Okay, so you can do the whole thing in slurs like you see him do. I guess you have to pluck the first note. And if you're using a nylon string guitar like I am, it's a good challenge to, you know, see if you can get some sound out. On the hammer-on part where you go in. If you want to clean it up a little bit, that's fine sounding, but it's a little bit, well, when I do it, it's a little bit messy. Okay, so if you want to clean it up, you could pluck just every other note, you know, the ones that you fret. And work on your slur sound. Okay, I like to do that and play it all with the thumb for some reason. Oh, this is a weird one that I like to do sometimes. You're changing the riff a little bit, but just for practice. It's kind of weird, but it's... just for fun, just to look at it technically in a different way. And then of course, you can slow it down a little bit, and you know, if you want to say, you know, I really need to work slurs with my pinky, then use your pinky for all the notes. Using a lot of arm. Third finger, okay? You switch between those two, 3 and 4. Let's see. Tricky. I could use some work on that one. And then, you know, I would say definitely focus on your slur sound. I don't have the best sounding slurs, you know, but at first when you do this, you know, you might just be trying to do the motion of a slur. But as soon as you can, think about how your slur sounds. How it would work for a clean sounding and a full sounding slur. Which again, I wish I could give you a better example. But if you can do the slur, but it's really snabby, that's it's not going to sound good in some instances. to say the least. So I would work control and think about the way that your slur sounds instead of only, just doing it. And try and shape the sound, using the joints of your fretboard hand. Okay, that's probably all the ways I can think to practice it for now, in terms of like fingerings. Now I want to point out something that's really weird that I found while I was recording this riff for the beginning of this video. Unfortunately, I'm not adept enough to just sit down and play it one take, put it up online. Nope, not me. So I've got to play it over and over. A lot of times I'll play it 3/4 of the way through, and then I'll screw up at the end because I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to get a take, and then I ruin it. So as you can imagine, my hand got tired. After I was working it for 30-40 minutes or so, okay, I'm still trying to get a decent take, my hand gets tired. So I'm thinking like, well, I really want to get this done today. I don't want to hurt myself. And I kind of thought, it shouldn't be tired. Like, can't I find a position where I can play this riff all the way through? I can do it multiple times. I can get a powerful sound, but it doesn't feel like, I was feeling this fatigue in here. And I was thinking, isn't there a way for me to get past that? So I started kind of experimenting here. I was thinking hand, right? So I was moving stuff around, doing stuff with my pinky, okay, doing stuff with my thumb, trying to say, well, let me find a position where I don't really feel any fatigue, okay? And I finally found a position that eliminated the fatigue. And the weird thing was it had nothing to do with my hand or my arm, really. And I'll tell you what it was. Because, when you're working something like this, you're trying to play as fast as you can and kind of as loud as you can in a way. You need all the power that you can get. I don't have huge hands, and I don't have huge muscular forearms and muscular shoulders, okay? So I need some more power. I need some more help so that it feels easier to make a stronger sound. So I found what it was, and it was this. Did you see it? Okay, I'm gonna exaggerate. It was this. Like, it was straightening my back and slightly leaning into the guitar with my hips. Then all of a sudden, the stroke felt easier, and the fatigue pretty much went away. I mean, it's like eventually I would get tired if I played it, over and over and over, but it made it feel so much easier. Like I was leaning into the guitar, and so it made this arm just kind of want to go into the guitar a little bit more, and even the fretboard hand, it made the energy of it want to come in towards the fingerboard just a little bit more, and just that much made it feel like I could just sit there and then execute the technique, which is what I'm looking for if I'm going to study something like this. With as little effort as possible. So, a lot of people don't like to play sitting up straight. A lot of people, if you're like me and you're looking to improve speed and accuracy and endurance, strength, you start here thinking like, okay, and it's a really good thing to think about, like hand position. That's something that you should think about. But if you feel like you need some extra energy and it's not coming from here, you can't find a place, okay, try this. However you hold the guitar, like sit up straight, have your shoulders be, not slumping forward, but kind of back, right? I have to make a slight effort to kind of pull them back into good posture. And then with your spine straight, just like lean forward with your hips a little bit. And it made all the difference. I'm going to study this, from here on out, and see how it can help my scale playing. It made a big difference here. And, I heard a cellist by the name of Janos Starker. I think it's Starker. Janos Starker. He's a world famous cellist. And I saw a video he made on YouTube where he was instructing cello players to hold their cello in a manner so that if they immediately had to stand up, they could do that. They could engage their thigh muscles and they could immediately stand up. And this is kind of what I felt today. And then I was thinking about it and I remembered that video and I thought, that makes a lot of sense. If you listen to Janos Starker play, you'll want to play the way that he does as much as you can. So when you're studying scales, if you're studying this passage in Thunderstruck, it's a great way to do it, right? I would encourage you to think beyond your fingers and hand and even arm into your whole body. Okay, see if you can engage your whole body. And for me, it felt like my whole body was wanting to play the riff that I was trying to play. Instead of just, instead of just your fingers or even your arms, okay? It was like the whole body wanted it to happen. It was that little bit of extra energy that I needed. Because until then, it wasn't quite as even as I would have liked, and I was getting tired. So I started to kind of miss a stroke here and there. So try that out. See what you think. If I would have heard this concept, a while back, I think I would have thought it was total BS. So if you feel that way, I don't blame you at all. But I would encourage you, if you feel that way, come back to it at some point. Give it a try. Maybe it can really help you. Okay, now for my funny story. It's funny to me. You might just think it's stupid, but I think it's really funny. So when I was in college doing my master's, every Friday all the guitarists would get together and we'd play one at a time. A few of us would play in the recital hall, and our teacher would listen, and then he'd give us like a class there. It was very fun. I always look forward to it. And one Friday, I was there, maybe a few of us had our guitars out, whatever, we're waiting for people to get there, and I start playing this lick. Just for fun, or to warm up, or whatever, right? It was always freezing in this recital hall, like freezing. So, you always needed to warm up. You were never really warm. So in walks this particular guitarist who's in the program, whose name I won't mention. And this person, I think it's safe to say he had never heard of AC/DC. When I grew up, when I was in high school, I started playing guitar, and, me and my buddies would play AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, whatever. So, these songs we're very familiar with. Some people grow up, with different musical influences than that, of course. This guy's influences were, I guess, strictly classical music, orchestral music, certainly guitar, but classical guitar. So suffice it to say, he'd never heard anything like this in his life. So he hears it and he immediately walks over and he says, "What exercise is that? That's the coolest sounding exercise." And I looked at him and I said, "Dude, that's AC/DC. It's not an exercise, I guess he thought it was some, some study that maybe a classical composer had written. And AC/DC is a band that this individual would never listen to because, their apparent values do not fit in with his own. We'll put it that way. Okay, you probably know what I'm getting at. So he would never listen to a band like AC/DC because that's not what he wants to influence his mind with whatsoever. However, he couldn't help the fact that this riff is so tasty and so so cool that he immediately came over and was like, "What is that? You know, what exercise is that?" And I was like, "Dude, that's AC/DC, man. Like, you know, check them out sometime if you want. You might like it." And then he was kind of like, "Oh, you know, no, probably don't want to listen to them, you know, after all." But anyway, that's my funny story. It's just like, for riffs like this, you know, as much as you might want to hate them, you know, you can't help but like him at least a little bit. That's when you know you got a good riff, I guess.